Yes. Okay. Over to Hannah Cross to start with.
Yeah, I'm Hannah Cross and this is my community profile. I'm going to be looking at what it might be like living with dementia in Waterloo Park Village. So this is what my presentation is going to include. So I've chosen to focus on Alzheimer's in particular. There are many different types of dementia, but Alzheimer's is the most common, and over 520,000 people are diagnosed with it in the UK. There, however, is no evidence to prove that race, profession, or socio-economic group actually are going to develop it more than others. So there are many different sort of symptoms related to Alzheimer's, as both physical, psychological, and cognitive. In addition to the earlier stages, there is difficulty in recalling new information and recent events. But it's really, really important to remember that everyone is unique, so no person with Alzheimer's is going to be affected in the same way because everyone is different. So the history of Waterloo Park Village. It's a community based on the site of Northampton Hospital. Opened on August 21st, 1872 as a psychiatric hospital. Residents had their own farm and church. An example of therapy, well, I say therapy, that they use treatment in whilst the hospital was running is insulin shock therapy for schizophrenia. It closed in 1996 following changes to mental health legislation. As the new community is built on the site of the old mental hospital, it might be confusing for an individual with Alzheimer's because as short-term memory is harder to recall, the long-term memory is telling them it should be a working hospital. So Waterloo Park Village is located in the Middlewood area. It has a main road through it, which is that like big loop thing there, and that's called Middlewood Drive. For the purpose of this community profile, I've used a postcode on that Middlewood Drive to identify statistics for the area. So it's a residential private housing scheme. The church lodge and Kingswood Ward still remain of the old hospital. The church lies derelict, but there is planning permission to turn it into housing, and the nursery and Kingswood Ward not the nursery. The lodge is turned into a nursery, and Kingswood Ward is turned into luxury apartments. So inside Waterloo Park Village, it's quite a well-maintained community with very little through traffic. There are speed bumps present which reduce noise, pollution and speeding. This can make it safer for residents, especially those with Alzheimer's, as physically wandering is quite a strong symptom. It is also quite hilly, so this affects ease of walking. And shortness of breath is often a common age-related symptom to many conditions. There are even well-lit pavements, so that will reduce the risk of falling and tripping. And also in the later stages when walking becomes more difficult, it's also easier for wheelchair access. There are many green areas and parks within the community. This is proven, exercise is proven to increase mental well-being and cognitive functions. Waterloo Park Village. Many people with dementia report feelings of isolation, and with dementia, many people explain that communities need to be dementia capable. So within Waterloo Park Village, there are very few local amenities. So this hinders opportunities to meet and interact with others in the community, increasing isolation. So you can see that there is, on the top, that's what's actually within Waterloo Park Village. There is a doctor's surgery and a pharmacy that you can get to using a cut-through on Middlewood Drive, so that's easy access. And that is a newsagents, and the newsagents is located in a quite highly deprived and in crime risk area, so it might not be safe for an individual to get to. That's basically what is it within Waterloo Park Village. But there is really good transport links, so that makes it easier access to Hillsborough and Sheffield. Social interactions outside the home are essential, so this is how they could occur. But for someone with Alzheimer's, public transport, like using it, might become really difficult as communication and orientation difficulties can occur. And having a negative experience whilst using public transport can affect their well-being and also reduce confidence in them going out. So So, housing within Worsley Park Village. It consists of new build flats and houses. The average three-bed detached home goes for $235,000. And the new build houses are actually almost mirror images of each other. And the road names are really similar, and there's an identical layout on Dead End Road. I don't know if you guys can remember the big split circle on Midwood Drive. There are so many cul-de-sacs and dead end roads coming off it. So for someone with Alzheimer's, this would be extremely confusing and hinder their orientation. And it's actually proven that good design can make a significant difference to this. Also, as it is a new build area, individuals won't have lived there that long, so they might even have difficulty recollecting the move to this area and the way to and from home. In more well-established areas, for example, like neighbours might be able to help individuals going home, but if they haven't lived there long, they might not know each other that well. There are flats available within the area that are specially designed, which might benefit individuals with Alzheimer's when activities of daily living become more and more difficult. Figures show that about 72% of tenures on Midwood Drive are actually only occupied, so this makes it easier for adaptations to occur in the home, which might be suggested by an occupational therapist. So in the Hillsborough ward, which Midwood is included in, Midwood actually is the most deprived area, which actually contrasts quite significantly with Worsley Park Village because it's quite affluent in comparison to a lot of other areas in Midwood. So at the bottom here, that's a majority owned council estate, and Woodward Gardens, which is actually opposite the entrance to Worsley Park Village, and they contrast significantly when you're sort of driving around or looking around both areas. So residents in Worsley Park Village might be more financially stable to pay to be comfortable in their home, and this highlights the contrast between who can afford care and who can't afford the care. So the population of Middlewood is 5,307. It has a larger than average proportion of children compared to Sheffield as well. And it's actually proven that elderly persons with dementia have really shown to benefit from relationships between generations, showing to improve quality of life, cognitive deficits and social interactions. And it's also proved the other way to be beneficial, so that children actually learn more about dementia and learn about elderly persons and how to interact with them. Culturally diverse communities have been suggested to enrich the lives of individuals. Whilst Worsley Park Village is becoming more culturally diverse, and it's predominantly a white community, 88% really. However, this could be seen as an advantage because having a common practice benefits individuals and families. The surrounding areas, so for example, Wynd Gardens, have a much more culturally diverse areas, so they have a higher BME, which is Black minority and ethnic groups. So within Worsley Park Village, there's a lower percentage of over 65s. 1 in 3 over 65s are said to develop dementia. However, only 44% actually receive a diagnosis. So for the Hillsborough ward statistics, it says just 10 people in the area actually diagnosed with dementia, but considering the previous 44% get to diagnose, there are probably a lot more people living in the community that are undiagnosed with some form of dementia. But having a low percentage of elderly could be a barrier to establishing social circles. However, this might be actually advantageous to someone with Alzheimer's because smaller groups are less intimidating to join and are easier to establish friendships in. Also, social isolation is actually being researched as a risk factor to developing types of dementia, so it's really important to try and reduce this. Employment in Middlewood, on Midwood Drive, sorry. The census in 2011 suggested that 27.1% of the UK had a degree or similar. On Midwood Drive, 38.4% actually have a degree. This could be said that there's data and education longer. Only 3.7% are said to be unemployed and 13.3% retired. Most of the employed have said that they work in health and social care. Due to the state pension aids, those that are retired are most likely going to be the elderly generation. Many studies have suggested that it's really essential for the elderly that are retired or unemployed to retain a role within the family or within the community. Crime within the area. Sheffield has a much lower than average crime rate to actually similar areas. It's lower than Doncaster and Rotherham. And it's also actively trying to reduce crime rates further. So there was 148 crimes committed within a 1 mile radius of S61. So yes, so that's within a 1 mile radius of Middlewood Drive. And actually I found that there was 2 in the month of September actually within Maudsley Park Village. In the surrounding areas, however, within a 1 mile radius of Wynn Gardens, there are on average 100 more crimes a month. This suggests that it can be linked to the higher deprived areas, and there's also been studies to show that there's a strong link between youth crime and deprivation rates, which would coincide with the fact that there's higher population of children in this area. So, a crime breakdown for the area says that antisocial behaviour is the most reported crime. And so that living in an area with high antisocial behaviour could actually really affect the psychological well-being of someone with dementia. Elderly victims of crime also shown to present with symptoms including anxiety, depression and also PTSD. So Sheffield is a dementia-friendly city. The council is actively working towards dementia-friendly city. It's aspiring to have communities that actively support achieving ambitions and breaking down barriers for those with dementia. In 2013, it has a Dementia Action Alliance was launched. Also, Dementia Friends and the Outside Society are very prominent, especially within the city centre. Innovations in Dementia, working with Age Well, is also actively supporting people with dementia and also creating dementia-friendly communities. So one of my recommendations for the area is going to be to have a lunch club at a local pub. I have sort of come up with an idea after a report from those living in Sheffield that, with dementia, said that it's really important for them to have local groups for themselves and carers, access to these and more public information. So having a local accessible group would be a benefit. So I thought about having a door-to-door bus service or a voluntary driver service pickup, so that overcomes the barrier of having to either walk to the destination, which you might find difficult, or use public transport. It's been thought of about using the pub on Moral Road, which is still quite in the local community. Using a pub is within a community atmosphere, so it's reducing isolation from the public. Meeting once a week generates opportunities for friendships and networks. And having a set location actually makes it accessible at other times as it builds up rapport with staff in the pub. So another couple of recommendations. As Maudsley Park Village, due to the housing layout and the street name similarity, different colour street signs I thought would be beneficial, making areas easier to identify and less confusing. Also, as I said earlier, the church is sort of having planning for to be turned into further housing. So there's an opportunity to influence the planning department for the church conversion to include a meeting place for the community. So OTs, health workers and Age Well could support this. Also, a local group of residents supporting this would really help influence this decision. However, that due to the movement of residents and employment rates, they might not have the opportunity to offer the time to support this. Are there any questions?
I was just wondering, are there any other environmental factors that might affect people accessing their community?
So in 2011, Middlewood was actually hit with quite severe flash floods, and Sheffield in general in 2012 was also hit by a lot of flooding. So the occurrence of flooding can increase the prices of housing market and endanger current residents as well and their properties. There is a spectrum of psychological responses to natural disasters like flooding, but particularly for people with dementia, vulnerability to chaos is massive and emotional trauma. So you have to sort of weigh up the options of going to that area.
The flooding didn't actually hit Maudsley Park itself.
No,
It was Wynn Gardens. Yeah, it was Wynn Gardens.
Oh,
That was really, the one at the bottom of the hill. That was really, really badly hit. It stopped at the road. Or the sort of
main
middle of the road at the bottom of the estate. Sorry, I live on that estate, so when we were buying our house, we did look into that flooding because that happened quite shortly before. So it never reached Maudsley Park Village itself. It's a really confusing area, even for people who've got no dementia, because of that round road and all the cul-de-sacs that go off, there's taxi drivers who still get confused. Cool. How no, that's too difficult a question. I'm not going to ask you this. It's quite difficult. Have you looked at the plans for the church? Because you can look up the
I
planning.
have like briefly looked up into that sort of thing, and I do think there is a strong possibility, but obviously after discussing with you, getting residents to support it is quite difficult. So
Is mobilising the residents, because what you've already said, the majority of people are working, so they're not there during the day, and getting residents to come together to create some community action around a community hall place is proving quite difficult. Well done. Over to right. Are you ready?
yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Over to Hannah Lee.
Yes, Hannah. So I've decided to look at Bradford. I was going to look at where I lived, but there isn't actually much happening there because it's a very small village. And Bradford is only about 15 miles away from where I live. And obviously there's quite a lot happening there at the minute, so I thought it would be something quite good to touch on. So I'm going to look at Bradford and specifically look at the Manningham ward, issues in the community, dementia and stigma, dementia within Manningham and Bradford, and services which were already established, and look at poverty, inequality and exclusion, occupations and identity, and then recommendations. So Bradford is an industrial city which began as a very small village within the Victorian times, and due to the manufacturing of wool, the village boomed and turned into a city, and Bradford soon became the wool capital of the world. Nowadays, Bradford is considered more of a tourist destination, becoming the first United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organisation city of film, with attractions such as the Media Museum, Bradford City Park, the Alhambra Theatre and Cartwright Hall. Bradford has faced similar challenges to the rest of the post-industrial area of northern England, including deindustrialisation, social unrest and economic deprivation. The population of Bradford is 528,200 people. And Bradford district is the fourth largest metropolitan district in terms of population in England, after Birmingham, Sheffield and Leeds. So these pictures I found are pictures of Bradford now and in the Victorian times, which I thought were quite a good representation. So in the 2011 census, the population of Manningham was just short of 20,000. The population is made up of approximately 49% females to 51% males. 60.9% of people living in Manningham are from a Pakistani background, and the average age in Manningham is 29. 1 in 3 people are unemployed in the whole of Bradford, and the amount of benefit claimants in Manningham is 27.8%, and that was in August 2009. And then health issues which have been identified by the Manningham Ward Community Plan, there's quite a significant rates of chronic heart disease and diabetes. Dementia is a progressive condition, which means symptoms including memory loss and difficulties thinking, problem solving or language can get worse. Dementia is caused when the brain is damaged by diseases such as Alzheimer's disease or a series of stroke. There is an estimated 850,000 people with dementia in the UK, and 25,000 of those are of people from Black, Asian and minority groups. Issues within, I've missed a slide. That's issues within the community. That's dementia. Dementia within Bradford. So it's estimated that approximately 6,000 people within Bradford have dementia,
1 in 5 of people within Bradford have dementia, although only 1 in 2 of those with dementia have been formally diagnosed. These tables represent the amount of people with dementia now and the projected amount, and then below that is the amount of people with different types of dementia. So studies have found that levels of stigma may be high among Asian, Irish, Black, Caribbean and Eastern European older people and carers. Religious beliefs may account for some stigma among Asian people. Although there is no data currently available on the prevalence of dementia among Asian and Black Caribbean elders, it is likely that dementia is more common due to other conditions which have higher prevalence rates among some ethnicities. Conditions such as high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke and heart disease are associated with vascular dementia, and these conditions are also, as identified, higher within the Manningham ward, so there's quite a high risk there. People from Asian background are less likely to attend hospital appointments, with memory assessments and treatment service appointments being the most unattended appointments. So this is just a spider diagram of services which are already available within Bradford. So they have a group called Meri Yadan, I think it's called, which is Hindu for my memories. And it's a community group in which people get together, like a memory group. They also do quarterly newsletters which are available in 6 languages. And they also do home visits, and there's also radio programs for people who are housebound, so they can still be involved with the group. So the landscape in Manningham, the north and west side of Manningham is elevated and is quite susceptible to snow and frost, so that would reduce accessibility for people. Manningham is only 2 kilometres away from the city centre, however it is surrounded by many busy multiple lane roads. Other symptoms of dementia include confusion, disorientation, impaired judgment, which would cause issues with mobility, increase one's risk of falls, and especially when crossing a road. Because there's lots of multiple lane roads, if you've got confusion, you may think you've already crossed the half of the traffic which is going one way, when you might have not. The black line of the map is Manningham Ward, and then all the purple lines are the main roads within Manningham, and all of them are multiple lane roads, so it is quite a busy place. So within Manningham, it's mostly terrace houses, as these were built during the Victorian times to house the workers who were working in the mills. Houses which are terraced are usually quite narrow and tall, and most of these houses are either 3 to 4 stories high, so they're going to contain up to 3 sets of stairs. I found that 7% of men and 28% of women aged 50 to 75 lack the leg strength and power to climb stairs easily. So this would increase the risk of falls, particularly in women, as almost 50% of those aged 70 to 74 find it difficult to climb stairs, especially in somewhere like a terrace house where there is lots of stairs. General Household Survey identified that being able to climb stairs was a worry for most over 65-year-olds, with only 9% of those who were asked said that they were able to do it independently. So this is an example of a set of stairs within a terrace house. As you can see, they're quite narrow and thin and tall, so that would cause difficulty for someone who had mobility issues. The main roads in Manningham include Manningham Lane, White Abbey Road, Oak Lane and Lum Lane. Buses to Bradford Royal and Fairbury from Manningham Lane are not direct and include a lot of walking near busy roads, which could cause difficulties for someone with dementia. Buses to Bradford Interchange are accessible from Lum Lane in Manningham and Springbank Place, and there are buses up to every 10 minutes. Bradford Foster Square train station is a 1-mile walk from Manningham. It includes lots of walking near busy roads, and to get to there you have to walk down quite a steep hill, and obviously on your way home you have to walk back up this quite steep hill. There is also a free city bus which calls about half a mile away from Manningham itself, which goes around the city centre of Bradford. So the BBC found that the age group 25 to 49-year-olds, that only 57% of Muslim women are in employment compared to 80% of women overall. This suggests that a high percentage of Muslim women stay at home and look after the household. And Boyle found that gender inequalities are a big issue for women who have a dementia diagnosis. And Boyle also describes that in typical traditional households, if the woman is physically disabled, then her partner or husband will take on more of the responsibility. However, with a diagnosis of dementia or other cognitive impairments, there isn't a change in roles. Having dementia will affect a woman's occupational performance as a role as a matriarch, as she will not be able to fulfil this role as she would have done previously. And not being able to fulfil occupational roles can lead to depression. And the Mental Health Foundation found that depression affects 1 in 5 older people in the community. So there's quite a lot of poverty within Bradford. The average household income within Manningham is $21,900 compared to the national average, which is 36,000. And Manningham is the 55th most deprived place to live within the UK, and 18.4% of residents are over the age of 65. A person with dementia is able to claim a state pension, attendance allowance, disability living allowance, or personal independence payment. As we get older, our occupations change, and an occupational therapist can help people adapt their existing occupations to ensure that they still engage with meaningful activity. Hines identified that dementia carers need as much support as people with dementia, both psychologically and to ensure that dementia carers continue to engage in meaningful occupations to maintain occupational balance. The occupation of attending the mosque is difficult for an individual living in Manningham with dementia, for reasons including stigma from others and due to the busy roads in and around Manningham. Opala describes that there is a lack of knowledge relating to dementia within Asian communities, and cultural beliefs can affect how the condition is perceived. Opala also noted that those with early stage dementia use the occupation of prayer to enhance their quality of life and ability to cope with the condition. And so a person's sense of identity and who they think that themselves is shaped by many things, including their relationship, roles in the family and the community, hobbies and occupation. So for example, a person might identify themselves as a gardener. Is it dementia or am I just getting old? So Bond found that there is a common theme from survey respondents, and this was a survey of 200 people, and that they agreed that the early symptoms of dementia are hard to recognise because people can't distinguish them, they just think that it's normal ageing. And for people with early onset dementia, do they have to uptake the role of becoming older sooner? That's quite a prevalent question. I'm not a priority, but I don't feel like me anymore. Bond also found that people with dementia felt like they were not a priority compared to other conditions such as stroke, because dementia isn't instantly life-threatening. Dementia patients found this frustrating as they were feeling scared, as they were losing a sense of who they were and their independence, and felt like they were becoming a burden on others, so that had a big impact on confidence. Continuing to engage in activities which are meaningful increases oneself feelings of self-worth, confidence, competency, acceptance, achievement and hope. Occupational identity can be identified as the clear perception of occupational interests, abilities, goals and values. Losing your identity can lead to confusions about what your interests are, reducing your level of occupational performance as you will not be performing tasks that you once previously did. So the main population of Manningham is of a Pakistani origin, and there are 17 mosques within the Manningham ward. For an elderly Muslim with dementia, the availability of mosques within the Manningham can help maintain someone's identity. A qualitative study of 15 individuals with early stage Alzheimer's found that religious faith and spiritual practices help diagnose how individuals feel and help to keep them feel hopeful, keep a positive attribute and come to terms with their illness. The respondents of this study continued with lifelong faith and spiritual practices and activities which were meaningful for them and helped them connect to personal faith. So the recommendations within Manningham, due to the busy roads within Manningham, it's quite difficult for someone to be able to get to the mosque. So I was suggesting something like a buddy system could be put in place, especially with the services which are already in Manningham, which are trying to get rid of this stigma. So at first I think that this would be quite difficult to implement, as there is still quite a stigma, not only within Pakistani communities, but within all communities, I think there's quite a huge stigma with dementia. And so not only can the dementia services reach out to people with dementia, but also people within the community to try and dispel the stigma. So conclusion, Manningham has many issues which have been identified by the council, and the Manningham Community Plan has an action plan set out to tackle some of these issues, including getting the community together. Dementia services within Bradford are established, however more work needs to be done on reducing stigma.
Right. Any questions from? Any thoughts, Hannah, on, because you quite rightly say there is stigma and there is not so much knowledge about dementia within that Pakistani community. And I like your idea of a buddying system. Any ideas on how you're going to address that lack of knowledge? How are you going to, your thoughts about that at all?
Yeah, I mean the dementia services that within Bradford,
Yeah.
then they aren't readily available. So you have to go and access them. They come to the community, but you have to go and find them. So I thought that advertising themselves more would be quite prevalent. Manningham did have like a community newsletter, but that has been suspended for 1 year due to budget cuts. But if that was able to be restarted up again, that would be able to help advertisements as well.
Okay.
And like the Manningham Ward Community Plan, they identified that there's lots of issues within Manningham. Such as there isn't that sense of getting together as a community, so they have addressed those issues and are trying to bring that together. So again, that could be something which could be addressed there.
Okay. Cool. Well done. So, well done. Breathe. And over to Hannah White. Okay, can we manage another 15 minutes of rapid speech? I know where you're coming from, and this is not a criticism at all. It's just you're all going quite fast. All right, up to you, Hannah.
And so this is Hannah Wake, and this is my community profile. This community profile will discuss a brief history of Sheffield, an introduction to the Parkhill area of Manor Castle Ward, my case study Dennis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and rheumatoid arthritis, the health and social inequalities of the area, the cultural influences, and community intervention policy. Sheffield and its history. Sheffield has a rich history of industry, most commonly known for its steel production, which has shaped its landscapes and influenced its population. The city has been producing cutlery for over 250 years. Its steel is world famous and its heavy industry brought a steady economy to the area. When Sheffield entered a period of financial decline, the steel companies failed to adapt, and many employees lost their jobs. By the mid-80s, the unemployment was a record high, with 25% of the city out of work. The severely negative effect on the economy of the area and the well-being of the individuals who became unemployed. Before 1955, the area where Parkhill Flats now stand consisted of industrial slums which were unsanitary and easily spread disease. By 1955, the slum clearance and redevelopment program report was adopted and construction on Parkhill Flats started. The construction started with three phases. Phase 1 started in 1957 and created 919 new homes. Phase 2A and B produced 1,312 new homes with blocks ranging between 5 and 19 stories high. In 1991, Sheffield won the bid for student games, Parkhill Flats were used for its accommodation. And in 1998, they were Grade 2 listed, meaning the concrete frame cannot be changed or destroyed, that the biggest building in Europe to be listed. From 2004, developers Urban Splash, in partnership with English Heritage and Great Places Housing Group, are to invest £146 million to renovate flats. Studies have shown that 74% of people within Manor Castle Ward are living in deprivation. This area has many inequalities in comparison to the rest of the city. This area has a high population of people with poor health, and men are predicted to live 76 years, which is significantly lower than the rest of Sheffield. The majority of people in Manor Castle Ward are expected to have a poor diet, to smoke, and to develop long-term illnesses such as cancer, circulatory diseases, or to be obese. Studies have shown that educational attainment is significantly lower in this area than the city as a whole. Sheffield, students are unlikely to have access to higher education. This is my case study of Dennis. He was born in 1940 in Manor Castle Ward in Sheffield. When he left school, he went, like most boys he knew, to work in heavy industry. He worked in the steel industry until 1984, and he lived in the Park Hill flats with his wife the entire time. When the flats got renovated, he was reluctant to move out. He has lived in the same flat all his life, and he liked it that way. His wife managed to convince him that the new flats would be better for him due to their ill health, and so he took part ownership of an urban splash flat in 2010. Unfortunately for Dennis, he lost his wife last year, and he's still grieving for her. Over the last 5 years, Dennis's health has deteriorated. He has chronic COPD, and he takes medication for his arthritis. Dennis loved the Park Hill area when he was younger, and his wife to share it with, but now he feels isolated and lost in his own community. COPD is an acute disease of the lungs which is characterised by breathlessness, chronic cough, excessive sputum production, and frequent bronchitis. It affects around 900,000 people in the UK, with around 7,750 of these people living in Sheffield. It is likely that Dennis has developed this disease due to smoking. It could also have been caused by dust, fumes, environmental pollution and gases. This exposure would have come from work industry when he was younger. Dennis can walk for a few minutes on level ground, and has to take a short break, and sometimes benefits from the use of an inhaler. Around 300,000 people currently live with rheumatoid arthritis in the UK. This long-term condition is an autoimmune disease and causes inflammation of the joints. An estimated 2,600 people have this diagnosis in Sheffield. The condition is quite painful to live with and can eventually cause joint deformities. Dennis sometimes struggles with his grip and experiences pain when he walks long distances. There has been research into whether the two conditions could be linked. There is shown as a high prevalence of COPD in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. Dennis is a person with strong values. He can be quite stubborn about certain topics and may not believe in something until he is shown proof. He doesn't believe in a faith and has no cognitive impairment. He is an intelligent man with a vast knowledge of the local area and the history of Sheffield. He experiences a lot of pain on cold mornings and finds that his joints are very stiff. He has realised some activities take him longer now that he is older, and he finds this very frustrating. The environment that used to cause him no issues at all is now a barrier for him due to his ill health. The steep hills and poor conditions of the pavement make Dennis unsteady and out of breath, so he's learned to work and walk to. He has some helmet actions that make living more comfortable. He uses the lift to access his flat and has a purchase stool in his kitchen to take a break whilst cooking. He enjoys reading and studying. He used to enjoy spending time in Sheffield's parks, but now finds them too difficult to access on his own. He enjoys gardening, as there are always kept flowers on his balcony. He aspires to have an allotment where he can grow his own vegetables. Manor Castle Ward is a majority ethnicity, with 78% of people living in that area being white British. However, this figure is lower than the UK average. Dennis is reluctant to accept the diversity of people that live in Park Hill, and this makes it difficult for him to make new social networks and to learn about other cultures. Most people living in this area are younger than Dennis. This could be due to the flats being renovated in a contemporary manner suitable for young professionals. Dennis may have little in common with his neighbours and is asked to isolation. Park Hill flats are built in one of 7 hills of Sheffield. The community overlooks the train station and it can be accessed by road or on foot. The steps down to the train station are steep and may not be suitable to be used by someone with a physical disability. The streets are lit at night, which is reassuring for Dennis during winter when it gets darker quicker. There is a selection of local shops and a post office that Dennis can access. The location lends itself to more comprehensive shopping in the city centre, but it is too far for Dennis to walk. For park and gardens, Dennis can access the South Street open space directly in front of the flats, or Norfolk Heritage Park, which is a 20-minute walk away. Dennis likes to sit in the fresh air, but finds a walk to and around the park too challenging if he's experiencing a lot of pain on that day. Dennis likes to read and can access 2 libraries, Sheffield Central in the city or Park Library Centre, which is closer to his home. The quality of the roads in this area are relatively poor due to the heavy amount of traffic that passes the flat. His close location to the train station is a cause of pollution and this can exacerbate Dennis's condition. Dennis could choose the bus to access his community care as he is eligible for a free pass. However, if his COPD worsens and he begins to use oxygen therapy, he will no longer be able to use the bus, and alternative transport must be arranged. A more suitable method for Dennis would be to use transport service such as door-to-door or the Royal Voluntary Service. It would cost a small fee, but it would have more freedom to travel. There has been a social shift from the Parkhill area. The majority of the original families would have worked in heavy industry and so would have mostly gained a lower standard of educational qualification. However, due to the renovation, the area now appeals to young professionals who are likely to be highly educated, so the statistics for this area are mixed. The new influx of tenants may cause a rift with people originally living at this estate due to the difference in upbringing, education and work. Dennis is retired after working in the steel industry and may find it difficult to find common ground with the tenants. Due to the close proximity of the town centre and drinking establishments, it's no surprise that the area has an issue with antisocial behaviour. In September 2015, 1,157 crimes were reported. Most of these were antisocial behaviour crimes. Also, not all people that live on live with their neighbours, and the flats have a mix of people living in them. This could be a reason for altercations in this area. Due to the high crime rate, Dennis is sometimes made nervous and doesn't like to leave his flat at night. This may affect his occupations and cause him anxiety. Dennis will have access to health services at the hospital and his local GP, and he will have to collect his medication from the pharmacy. The GP surgery Dennis is registered offers pulmonary rehabilitation, which is run by a specialist COPD nurse. Dennis feels isolated because he's not aware of the community services that are available to him. He could be signposted to attend local projects such as the Age UK Wellbeing Centre, our St Mary's Church, which run lots of projects to reach out to isolated people in the local community. Another option for social support could use the Silverline service, which provide phone calls to older adults who may not have anyone else to speak to. Culture is a continuous flux. New and different things are happening all the time. In the 1960s, when the flats were new, they were seen as luxurious and were designed in a way to make them social. They had covered walkways and decks wide enough big enough for a milk float to access. This type of housing was revolutionary. The streets in the sky were innovative and people were excited to live there. Residents have recorded their memories as oral testimonies. Most people say they enjoyed their childhood in the flats. They used the shops on the pavement and there was a strong community spirit. But by the 1980s, tension at the city was at a peak, with unemployment on the rise and families becoming financially unstable. The original tenants grew up and moved out of Parkhill, and more problem families moved in. The strong community feel was lost, and the flats gained a reputation for being a place of antisocial behaviour and were associated with frequent robberies. Residents' testimony stated that there was an issue with vandalism at night, a shame that the flats became run down. Currently, with the regeneration of some of Sheffield's most disadvantaged neighbourhoods, there has been progress to combat the deprivation and poverty in this area and to close the gap with the rest of the city. Parkhill has undergone a substantial period of change. There has been an investment to the area and a renovation to the building, including a variety of new upmarket events in an attempt to recreate the old community feel and change perceptions about the area. These events include street markets, art shows, heritage and history days, tours and trails, and they aim to improve the social capital of the area. Dennis has always lived and worked in the same area, and Sheffield has progressed since he was young. The world has moved on. Dennis now has more barriers when he tries to access his community, and this may both disheartening and frustrating. Dennis represents a group of people of an older generation who tend to have set routines. They may have outdated attitudes that are difficult to change. A way to acknowledge change and to promote inclusion in the community by creating a way to share stories, opinions and situations. Oral history sharing may give an understanding of these outdated views held by the original Parkhill community. They can share their experiences of living in this area, and this can be of educational use to others. Oral histories are passed between generations. It may not be an instrument of change, but it can be used in a way of influencing the population. Reminiscence is an activity that most people enjoy, and it gives a rich and detailed account of social issues that are experienced by a community. It allows a personal reflection of events that happened and the relationships that were formed. Sharing these insights may develop social capital. It can be used to form connections between the original community and the new tenants. Social capital uses networks and relationships to build a strong community. This is measured by the level of trust between individuals and the groups that people attend. Putting value in the social networks of community sounds idealistic, but in an area such as Parkhill, where there is a loss of community spirit, it is difficult to form cohesion. If the community engage in the local events and groups, they will be able to form a stronger connection together, actively producing social change. Appreciating that all aspects of the social, cultural and environment are integrated in a way that the community thinks and pays may be a way of assessing positive change. An OT may help dentists to integrate into the community by working with them one-to-one to run an allotment. This intervention is an occupational focus and has many benefits. The OT will work alongside dentists to ensure that the activity was graded with enough challenge to be stimulating, not too difficult to discourage him. The OT would analyse the activity and ensure it was not too strenuous as he has severe health conditions. Most of the activity would be at a gentle pace and done from sitting, and the OT may also advise on fatigue management and joint protection. The programme would run at first with dentists receiving one-to-one support, where the end goal that dentists would have confidence in his ability to continue to use his allotment alone. A goal could be agreed on that dentists would make an acquaintance at the park, which would reduce his social isolation. There may be a society or group that dentists can also attend, which would increase the opportunities to socialise with people that share his interests. The intervention aims to meet 5 outcomes: inequality, poverty, exclusion, identity and social difference. By growing and eating his own vegetables, there will be a physical health benefit for dentists and diet will improve. It would be a good form of exercise for dentists due to his COPD preventing him from doing anything too strenuous. He gets him out of his flat and into the fresh air, although care should be taken with his joints because they stiffen during the colder weather. Enabling people with mobility issues such as dentists to access the community is a form of occupational justice and reduces isolation in this group. Gardening is a therapeutic activity for many people. Growing produce gives a sense of achievement, and learning new skills is good for intellectual stimulation. Being part of a group reduces exclusion, forms new relationships in the community, and gives a sense of belonging. Being out in the community provides opportunities for social interaction and promotes inclusion. Dentists will be able to meet and communicate with a variety of people who wouldn't normally chat to. This may remove some barriers and prejudice he holds. It is important that dentists feels valued and can trust the people in his community, so that he can continue to function at a high level for longer and live a happy, fulfilled life.
Oh, there was a lot of information in there. Any questions? I like your idea of the allotment, but have you thought about how that might link in with Park Hill as a community?
Yeah, the intervention would be with Dennis one-on-one for him to be integrated into the allotment society. Sheffield Council run a lot of allotments, I think it's 7,000.
What's the nearest one to Park Hill, do you know?
There's one at Norfolk Park.
Okay.
It's my main presentation. There's one at Norfolk Park, which is about 20 minutes away for him, but you could arrange transport. And I think there might be one closer, but I think it's private.
Okay.
And that would be for him to reduce his social isolation because there'll be other people on the allotment, other people accessing the park. A way for that to invest is in social capital, so people come together more as a community.
Good. I like that idea. Anybody else with any questions? You stunned everybody into silence, I think. Okay, well done. I'm going to need a bit of a break because otherwise my brain's not going to be able to cope. So can I suggest, are we okay to come back and rather than wait until 2, can we start at 11:30? Is that all right?